flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Untitled Statement, all requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act and the Veterans Meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of the meeting was filed with the record of attendance of all persons requesting such notice. Mrs. Moran, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District, a safe and nurturing learning community dedicated to ongoing pursuit of educational excellence, inspires lifelong learning in its children through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district fully supports and expects the attainment of New Jersey core curriculum content standards on the part of all students within the school environment, designed to maximize student potential, develop responsible citizens, and promote respect for the uniqueness of all individuals.
Roll call.
Mrs. Moran?
Here.
Mr. Oradell? Here. Mr. Walsh? Here. Dr. Westlake? Mrs. Nichols?
Here, open to the public for agenda items only. Okay, moving forward, Dr. Angelo and I were just discussing the strategic plan and the mission statement. And I couldn't remember what we had left it, but we said we were going to discuss it with Mr. Lee when he comes in November. I know everyone remembers it. Okay. And the goal was just, I guess, waiting for the results in Bergen County to come out so we can set a quantifiable goal for the PARCC. So we're waiting for that. And I guess we will move to the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. In a moment, we're going to be doing a presentation about our PARCC results from this past year. Before we get to that, I also wanted to make note of the fact that this past week, our board was presented by the New Jersey School Boards Association as having achieved the status of board certification. And so I wanted to congratulate our board on having been presented with their plaque and recognition for their accomplishment of having fulfilled the training requirements to earn that award. And I think that's a very notable achievement, so I just wanted to congratulate our board for that. And then also, I wanted to report that for the month of September, our total student enrollment was 747. The student attendance rate for the month of September was 97.99, and the staff attendance rate for the month of September was 98.86. And now I'm going to turn things over to our building principal, Ms. Bozios, who's going to talk about our PARCC results.
Okay, before we begin, we need a little preface. First of all, the Bergen County data is not out yet. It was supposed to be released yesterday, and I think I've checked hourly since yesterday at 9 a.m. and it's not on the state website. So what we'll talk about today is the district data and the state data, and we often say that the state data doesn't matter. We expect ourselves to score above the state data, but it gives us a baseline to compare ourselves to. So that's kind of one of the things we'll look at today. The other piece is we usually present science data at the same time. Last year's science test was the first time it was given to 5th grade. There were no scores. It was a complete pilot test. So it's a little sad because I wish the district got some scores. It was a learning experience for us. It was a learning experience for our students. And next year we'll have some scores in that area as well. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at overall data in math and language arts. Then we'll delve into language arts, then we'll delve into math, and then we'll talk about what are we doing with that data. So our first slide just takes us through each grade level and compares it in English Language Arts to Oradell Public School District compared to the state. And of course, you're going to see that our scores are much higher than the state. The next slide does the same exact thing for math. Now these are solely the spring 2018 scores. Later we're going to look at third grade, 4 years of third grade scores, but right now we're going to just begin by looking at the 2018 scores. And one of the things that's, we're very happy about is that we notice in that one category over here, we do not have many students at all. That's probably one student in the entire district that scored at a level 1. So one of the things that I began to think about when we were looking at the data was this concept of math versus language arts, and this belief that we are growing as learners in language arts, but our growth in math is lagging behind. And one of the ways that I thought we could look at that is by comparing the district scores to the state scores in each grade level and looking at the difference. Because truthfully, if there's equal growth in each area, then we would know that we're growing the same in math and language arts. And you do see that our language arts scores are growing at a higher rate than our math scores. And then we started to look at, knowing that the district goal this year is exceeding expectations, we started to look at that more carefully. And really, where are we and how are we doing in growing the number of learners who are exceeding expectations in math and language arts? And I really do believe that this is a slide that we can be incredibly proud of. That when we look that in 2015, 14% of our third graders were exceeding expectations in math, and now 29.6% of them are. That's a growth of 15.6 percentage points. That's pretty significant growth. The same can be said for, let's look at our fourth graders in math from 2015, where 19.1% of them were exceeding the expectations. And in 2018, last year, 44% of that cohort exceeded the expectations. So when we look at that growth, it's pretty consistent in terms of 11 percentage points and 13 percentage points. And then we started to just break down and look at the growth across years, just to see if there were any trends. And again, because we don't have that Bergen County eye data yet, the only thing we really can look at is growth. How are we growing? How are our students growing, and how are we growing at individual grade levels? So again, what we see is that in third grade, 20.5 percentage points more students passed the language arts PARCC. We do have a small decrease in sixth grade. I'm not sure it's completely valid at -0.1. And we can do the same thing in a moment in math, but first what we're going to do is look at how are we doing in terms of our students who are scoring 1s and 2s. And what we want to see is we want to see these bars going down. We want less students scoring at a 1 and a 2, and they are going down. I apologize that this 14% over here, it's supposed to be a very light lavender, and our projector is not cooperating this evening. But again, that shows significant growth that our students who were struggling learners and were not passing PARCC and were not scoring in the approaching area are, with appropriate interventions, increasing their performance from third grade to fourth grade to fifth grade, because this is the same group of students. This is the same group of students who has third graders, 12% of them scored either a 1 or a 2. In fourth grade, 5% of them scored a 1 or a 2, and in fifth grade, 0% of them scored a 1 or a 2. And we can do the same thing by looking at those cohorts of students and how many students scored 4s and 5s, which qualifies as, we can say passing PARCC, meeting or exceeding the expectations. We do have, when we look at the data, we're always looking for something that sticks out, and we do have here, we're going up from 3rd to 4th, from 4th to 5th, and then we do have a dip going into 6th grade. So was that 5th grade year an exceptional year? Was the test that much harder in 6th grade? We need to delve a little bit more deeply into it, and really into the Bergen County data to compare and to know, was that 6th grade test just much harder and less people everywhere passed or exceeded the expectations? But again, something to be incredibly proud of when we always look at the overall, how is Oradell Public School doing, and we actually see that upward trend. We want to see a downward trend on 1s and 2s, and we want to see an upward trend on 4s and 5s. One of the pieces of data that Lincoln actually gives us, any of these graphs that you're seeing with the purples and the blues, that actually comes to us from our Lincoln reports. And Lincoln gives us different analytics on many different subgroups, many different grade levels, and looks at grade levels over time. So they just gave us some data on the different strands tested on PARCC. We often hear that we're weaker in writing, but what the PARCC data is showing us is that actually writing expression and writing conventions is a strength of the district. And a very exciting strength of the district is the growth in vocabulary. The reason these two are different is that when Lincoln does these reports, because they work with much larger districts, they break out 6th grade. So these scores are actually 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade combined. The next slide is just 6th grade. We can take the same view when we look at mathematics. First of all, looking at a comparison of the grade level over time. So this is just 3rd grade. I keep going to 3rd grade. So let's give it a different grade. We can look at 5th grade. 5th grade in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. 5th grade in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And again, we'll see a dip that we saw in our 6th grade. It's very similar to what we saw in our language arts, and that's an area that we continue to look at. Again, we really would like to see these go down, and we're actually seeing them go up. So what we're seeing in language arts is our students who are scoring 1s and 2s are decreasing. In math, they're actually increasing. And then we have the same type of view for students who are scoring, meeting, and exceeding the expectations in math. And again, this white bar over here is 2014, 2015. So you have 67% in 2014, 2015, 78%, 85%, 65%. You do the same thing in mathematics for breaking down areas into the standards. It's just a little more confusing. It would be a little bit easier if the standards on the bottom said things like number sense, the student can work with numbers, measurement, geometry, like New Jersey asked it, how the state breaks it down. Now, with major content, those are the key mathematical standards for the grade level. Things you really need to learn. So in 4th grade, you have fractions, adding fractions, comparing fractions, multiplying fractions. The additional and supporting content, they're still important standards, and we still teach them, but it might be comparing quarts or converting quarts and pints. Modeling and applications and expressing mathematical reasoning has to do with problem solving and the mathematical process skills. And again, this was elementary school, so it was grades 3 through 5. And the next slide shows 6th grade. So the question is, I mean, the data is one thing, but what we teach our teachers is there's something like summative data, and summative data just tells us, okay, this is what you're doing, and this is where you are. But summative data is no good unless we use it for something. So what we're doing right now is, and what we've been doing, is we've been using this data to really inform our next steps. So for example, when I started to look at each grade level in reading literary text or writing expressions, I noticed that our 5th grade consistently scores better than the rest of the school in reading informational text. So those teachers may have some skills and some strategies that we want to use to let them teach some of our other grades, because clearly in this one standard, they're doing something very well. And frankly, that's exactly what we did last year when we looked at the language arts subcategories. We noticed that vocabulary was the weakest area. You as a board set that as the district goal, and the truth is, it's the area we grew the most in. And that is from, we did professional development on vocabulary. Mrs. Lipton did several different professional development sessions. We also looked at the resources we were using, and did we need to add any additional resources to our teachers' classrooms. And then sometimes you see a slide that just makes you think. And we like these slides a lot because when we show them to the staff, they can really be the jumping off point for some really great conversation. We so often hear that math performance varies by gender. Well, at Oradell Public School, it doesn't. Our males and our females score equally as well in math. Yet when we look at language arts, our females are outscoring our males. So then, that's not the complete story, because when you look at it, our males are growing in that. So is that, the question then becomes, when we start to talk about, what are we doing in our classrooms that might be a little different over the past 2 years that have helped our male students gravitate more towards language arts? That may be that we're providing more opportunities for choice in reading text or choice in writing topics. It may be that we're incorporating more informational text, which typically boys gravitate to more. So that's what you can all do when you go home tonight. Right now, are there any immediate questions about the Bergen County data here about this?
Any questions from the board?
Can we go to page 2? Page 2. English language arts. We have 20, these are percentages, so they're not showing the numbers of children in each grade. Okay. But it's still 25% of the 3rd grade is not meeting expectations. 25%. And 19% of the 4th grade. How many children are in the 3rd grade?
Hang on 1 second, Mr. Walsh. I think you're looking at the state data and not the district data. Because if you look up here,
I'm looking at the district, 19.4, 4.1, and 2.
oh, okay, so you're including the approaching expectations and not meeting the expectations.
I could have been in one of those 3 categories, and I would have not passed. I wouldn't have passed. I'd be approaching maybe expectations, but I'm still not there.
And I would agree with you that if I was, to really say where we need to focus our expectations right now in our learning, it's actually, we've shown growth in 1 and 2. Those students are growing. Now they might have grown to this level right here, but I agree with you. The state kind of ignores this group right there in the middle. Remember, all of the reports they gave us were 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. So the limbo group over here is the
Well,
group.
the 25% is the 3rd grade. So they haven't been tested in the 2nd grade.
They actually have in Lincoln,
They have.
They haven't linked it.
We should really take a look at the second grade and not just give up on first kindergarten, first and second grade. We should come up with some other strategies. But if you move to fourth grade, 19%, and we have hundreds of kids in each grade. So we're not talking about one or two kids. We're talking about multiple. 12% in the fifth grade and 20% in the sixth grade. Now, we've had these kids for 7 years, and for us not to be able to get the sixth grade with better marks, with better scores. We're sending these children to the middle school.
Which one are you looking at for sixth grade?
H2.
He's combining 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, not yet meeting, partially meeting, and approaching. That's not passing.
Well, if you look, I will say this, if you look at the trend, third grade, 74%, fourth grade, 81%, fifth grade, 87%. You see those are all increasing year to year. This year we had a dip in sixth grade, but until we see the Burnham County data, we're not going to know actually if it was because our students didn't perform or because it was a very difficult test. We want to see how we lined up first in the county, because even with a dip like this, we could have still done better than many of our peers in the county, so I think we have to wait to see that. Because if it is a bad test, and there are bad tests, it does make a difference in that.
Yeah, well, we have something to say every year. I'm sitting here 30 years, and we really haven't been happy with, I haven't been happy with any, whether it was PARCC or was asked. I mean, the numbers, the percentages should be, we shouldn't have 15% of the third grade exceeding. We shouldn't have to pick it on. But I'm not picking on the third grade because they had linked it in the second grade, but I'm guessing, that they didn't have as much linking as the other grades did. But
I think some of it has to do with the test.
if we're going to wait for Bergen County, we haven't beat Bergen County since 1890, something like that. So if we're going to hold these numbers out and then wait for Bergen County.
I think we should wait for Burnham County, because I think, they've done very well in Burnham County in certain years, so it just depends every year on the grade of the test, so I think we should wait to see that first.
And I think the important piece is, even when we look at Bergen County, is looking at the growth over time. So if 25% of those third graders didn't meet expectations at a 4 or a 5, the most important thing to me is that in fourth grade, there's less of a percentage. And we are showing that.
Well, those are the third grade students that were in the fourth grade. Now they had a year of the PARCC.
Correct.
So, okay.
And Mr. Welch, you actually hit on a really important thing that Mrs. Pisa and I were talking about today. Truthfully, we do not do as much PARCC testing prep as other districts do, because we truly believe that if we're teaching well, then we shouldn't need to. Third graders, though, may be slightly impacted by not having been in a testing situation like other grades have. They are probably our most unreliable test takers, because we don't sit them in front of a computer, and there are local districts that do that and just make them practice it and practice it and practice it.
Okay. But if we're going to wait,
I don't think you're going to wait longer than a week, truthfully, based on the fact that it was said it would be out.
Yes, I would say in the next month, we'll probably see the reading and the presentation.
and that's English language. The math is even more. The percentage is even more. Page 3, I have the third grade 29%. So 25% didn't do well, didn't pass in language arts, and 29% didn't pass in math. And you can take those numbers down. Fourth grade is 27%, fifth grade is 28%, sixth grade is 34%. I mean,
And we definitely are concerned about our sixth grade math scores. It's part of why we had the scores in when we made the decision to change math resources this summer. We did have this data at that time.
Could it be that the math programs are changing?
There's always going to be,
Where we have,
there's always going to be a little lag when the math program changes. That first year after it may not be your highest scoring year. Because I see it with language arts. We started our serious professional development probably about 4 years ago. Last year was the year we saw huge jumps in language arts. So that may happen in that. I do predict and hope that we will see stronger sixth grade math scores. Mrs. Hawley and I were able to teach A-level in sixth grade last week, and we're able to use the new math resource and see the types of skills and the type of work that students are doing there.
okay, I mean, I'll wait till the Bergen County numbers come out.
I think the important thing is always to go back to this slide also. Remember, this is the slide that shows those third graders from 2015, just third grade, to 2018. 20.5 more percentage points of students passed PARCC than did in 2015. So we can be very truthful. We would like every student to pass next year, but growth takes time. And truthfully, our third grade is actually making the strongest growth. So if they continue on that trend, well, frankly, next year, we will not see as many 1, 2s, and 3s in third grade. As I said, sixth grade is the one area where we see a dip, and that's really the area that we want to look at.
I mean, not okay, but I'll wait.
Any other questions, people?
No, no.
Did we, I know you have one good page in here. I missed some of what you said. I think Linkit took all the schools in the state, how they performed on the Linkit, was it?
Now, Lincoln can, if we give them certain districts that we would like them to compare us to, can do a comparison report for us.
Is it just their Linkit scores though, or their PARCC scores?
PARCC scores.
So these are their PARCC scores.
But I don't have a comparison in there on Lincoln. They just did our comparison for us.
So that's what I want.
They can do a comparison for us.
Okay, so which one, like, what page is Linkit, like 9, let's say, is that Linkit?
This is the Lincoln page right here, the one that shows the cohort going down.
And is that showing our PARCC scores?
This is just ours.
Did we do, probably not yet, but did we compare at all how our scores compared to how Linkit predicted we would do, or not yet?
Usually right on anything we get under projects.
But we don't know
Be
yet
safe.
this year.
I mean, we actually have that data, it's pretty easy to look at, but what the trend has been for the past 4 years is that we actually pass more students than Lincoln predicts that we will pass, because they're overly cautious in their statistics.
Any questions on this side? I'll open it to the public if anyone has any questions on the presentation. Just have to come down to the podium if you have a question. This is a great presentation, I must say. Love the data in it. Too bad Christine's in here. Love it.
It'll be on the district website.
Excellent.
Read it out.
This is excellent.
Is this that, is this that going to be available for parents? You said it'd be on the website?
Any district presentation that gets done is put on the website.
So when will this be up? Do you
Tomorrow,
think?
tonight.
Tomorrow or tonight? Tomorrow? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Another question?
Hi, Kelly Castro. I just was curious, what is the sixth grade math curriculum? Has it changed over the past few years, or?
It was connected math prior to this year. It's been connected math since before I arrived at the real public, so it's probably a good 5 years. This year we moved to green ideas, which is
What's connected math? Is that?
That's the name of the program.
Oh, okay. What is it, like, is it like pre-algebra or the content of it?
So, sorry, the math, when the Common Core came out 8 years ago, New Jersey adopted the Common Core. About 2 years ago, New Jersey changed the math standards to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. They are relatively the same as the Common Core state standards. That's what all of our curriculum is based on, is on the New Jersey standards. 6th grade is a little bit different than our K to 5, where we focus on building from addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, and decimals. You know, we spend most of our time in K to 5 with that. 6th grade continues to build on that, but it pulls in pre-algebraic skills, and it also pulls in statistics, including mean, median, mode, which our students haven't seen before. So 6th grade can be some new knowledge that that's brand new for our students. That being said, they have the strong background of kind of the foundational math K to 5.
Are you going to compare the River and do you see River just math?
So that's what Ms. Bosius has been saying, we have not received the Bergen County I information.
So what happens, and it's like, we're anxiously waiting for it, the Department of Education puts on the back end of their website a spreadsheet of every school in the state of New Jersey, which allows us to pull that data and do a comparison by school and also by district. So we compare to all the other schools, including River Edge, that are in the Bergen County High District.
And River has like their math is not easy to work with.
If we find a school that yes, absolutely. If we find a school that is consistently outscoring us, then we want to have a conversation about like, what's going on over there?
I just want to clarify something. You said River Edge is using Big Idea, but they went to it this year, the same, and that's what they had last year also. I thought we all went together.
They actually started their pilot last year, much more deeply than they had originally shared with us.
What was their pilot?
Their pilot was Big Ideas. So
So for the whole school?
No, just 6, Big Ideas is
Or just
only-
6th grade.
But they all sixth, for the whole 6th grade?
Yes, Big Ideas is a middle school program. It starts at 6th grade and it builds to the middle school.
And Riverdale started it this year? With us, or they started it last year also?
Riverdale has been using pieces of Big Ideas for the last couple of years. They say they're using it almost completely now. When I speak with them and the information that they're given, their curriculum has not been updated. Our curriculum right now is in draft form. By the end of October, the curriculum committee will be given that draft to look at for approval for 6th grade, and the curriculum was revamped this summer, not only based off of the standards,